All right. I put the banner up saying we're starting soon. We're starting. Here we go.
We are started.
All right. Well, I am here today with two other friends, and you're going to hear three guys with three accents very soon. As soon as we all start talking, you're going to see we all come from different places. And got Nicholas with us. It's
Hey guys,
awesome that we
and
get
ladies.
to talk every week. Yes, layman apologist Nicholas, and someone I've had on before, but it's actually been a long time. Ollie Sherwood with King Jim's Music. How you doing, Ollie?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you, brother. Great to be here, man.
It's great to have you. We are going to be, as we get started here, kind of letting people come in. We're going to be talking to Ollie about the ministry of that he's doing in London. You just heard him talk. You can tell that he's from England, and I think everybody knows where Nicholas is from, and I'm from the U.S. We've got people here in the chat. Great to see regulars here already. Now, I have a question already. I saw a comment that I am really confused by. Colton is in the comments. What is the Kermit the Frog imitation?
I ain't doing one, but Colton and I were discussing today Jordan Peterson and how not only does Jordan Peterson sound like Kermit the Frog, but every time Jordan Peterson is every time the man is answering a question, he both sounds like and has a look upon his face like he has been physically tortured while he's answering.
I'm never gonna now unsee that.
Well, it's interesting you say that because someone tweeted about that. Actually,
that would be me.
Yes. So that's what you think he looks like when he's trying to answer questions during that debate?
Just watch the man's face. Like he distorts his face whenever he's thinking through a question. Because I honestly don't know what it is about him, but I think he feels like every question is somehow like a trap to like try and like undermine him or something. So like he just looks like he's in excruciating agony trying to answer questions.
Well, we'll get to that a little bit. Definitely really want to hear Ollie's opinion on the Jordan Peterson debate, but we'll get to that later. But that was, I think, a kind of a tough situation for Jordan Peterson. Like that whole thing was a weird situation. I don't know if he knew what the show was about, but yeah, he did have a very kind of a pained expression. I know what you're talking about. So you got a fellow patriot over there. Good evening from England. Good to see you, Tony. Over in England. I don't know exactly where in England Tony is, but
he did
closer to where Ollie is. Oh yeah, he has mentioned that before.
He mentioned last time, but I can't remember. Tony, put it in the chat if you feel comfortable again.
Yeah, but he's closer to Ollie than I am for sure.
Oh yeah.
And now we do have Alan back from St. Louis, which is closer to me, but this is the USA, so St. Louis is still not close at all. That would take me a long time to get there. How long would it take you guys, like if you wanted to visit each other from Northern Ireland and London?
I think the ferry does it, Ollie now in like under like maybe 30, 40 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to say 2 hours. Wow, 30, 40 minutes. My days.
Oh yeah, no, like the they're not called P&O anymore now, but like the seafarer one does the journey in like 30, 40 minutes.
That's the same amount of time it takes me to get over to West London to see my old dear. And I'm in South East.
Well, to be fair, that's me crossing from Northern Ireland to like Scotland. Like I would still have to take time then to get down to you. So yeah, maybe in total, maybe about 3 hours, 4.
I'm pretty far from Scotland, bro.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Then it would be a train journey down.
2 hours. A couple hours from
3, 4.
So Ollie, Tony was asking where exactly
you are.
Okay, Tony's in Blackpool.
Oh, he's in Blackpool. Yeah, I'm London,
Yeah.
Southeast London,
Right. East London.
Southeast.
Southeast London.
Big difference. Very, very big difference.
I can believe it. I can believe it, depending where you are in a city.
It's totally
East
different.
London. Not East London.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Tony also said he'd have to drive up to Scotland to get the ferry.
Yep.
Okay. Well, as you can see, I have like kind of a golfing look. This is my golf style going on right now. During the winter, I had the beard. I am actually starting to play golf again. This is a good season for it. So my hope one day, I'll put it on record here, is to get over to Ireland. I want to play golf over there with you, Nicholas.
Yeah, we'll bring Ollie over too, sure.
You guys have iconic golf courses over there.
Especially Port Rush.
Wow, look at this. We've got, okay, so I know who this is. Do you know who this is, Ollie?
That is my better half, my beloved Sandra Sherwood.
I'm glad she's in the chat because she can tell you what to say about some of these.
I'll tell you what. It's funny you say that because she actually is telling me what to say about Jordan Peterson. She knows I ain't got a clue when you say.
Thank you, Sandra.
The 28th is very recently. She's giving me a whole paragraph. So Sandra, just so for those who are watching, Sandra's going to come in and sit in this chair when it gets to that part. Because
if I ask you any really pointed questions, she's going to be right in there.
Important, yeah. You've broadened it to a even greater place, bro. Anything important, she'll answer.
Now, may I point out, Tim, it's not just the beard that you're behind in this week. Ollie and I are also wearing black.
Yeah, man. What's going on?
It's my channel.
Mm-hmm. You have to stand out.
Yeah, Ollie was even asking why I was wearing a Boston hat when I'm a Phillies fan. He's really testing me there. But I actually live in the area of our country that a lot of people here are Red Sox fans. They're Boston Red Sox fans in New England. So I am wearing the appropriate attire for where I live. But my favorite team is indeed the Phillies. I'm not embarrassed to wear Phillies stuff anytime, but especially right now, they're doing great. So,
1 second, this cat's just jumped in my window. Hold on. It's not a random cat. We're cat sitting, but he just jumps in and out the window. And he'd be locked in my room if I didn't let him out. But we were talking about polygyny earlier, so I guess you can call that baseball-lygyny. I guess if you
baseball-lygyny, yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about polygyny backstage and the difference between the meaning of the word polygyny and polygamy because of a topic. We might talk a little bit about it. I'm not sure we will, but because of someone who has been promoting it on Twitter, and it's someone that has been involved in a scandal. So anyway, I'll keep it general right now. We got to make sure we get to talking about Ollie's. Yeah, we may not get to that today. It could be a future topic. Alan's giving me a hard time. He said, I'll just put this up here for everybody. Tim can't go out in his neighborhood with a Phillies hat. It's actually pretty safe. It'd be more dangerous to go out with a Yankees hat in some places where I live. But Phillies aren't too much on the Red Sox radar. But yeah. Okay, so I wanted to get to Ollie's music, talk about what he's doing. So this is his Instagram. So if you want to, connect with his social media, I know he has Instagram. Do you have any other social media, Ollie? Oh yeah, you have YouTube.
Really. Yeah, I don't really put much on YouTube. Most of my music's on like Spotify, Apple, on all the streaming services. Yeah.
No,
Instagram really.
I have told him time and time again to get X and to join me on X. He refuses.
I'm trying to minimize social media, man. So that's why I don't even have TikTok.
Yeah,
Fair,
it's.
fair, but still.
I mean, yes, I think social media is one of those things where it's useful, but at the same time it has its problems. You know, even X, like sometimes it's hard to know whether I really want to be on X.
Well, over these last 3 days, it's quite literally had its problems with servers being burnt down.
True. That's true. That's true. So we're gonna play a clip of one of the songs that you were part of. But before we do that, what generally have you been doing? Like how long have you been writing music, performing, and how are you using music?
So I really just started to make music when I got saved in 2014. But it's really been since 2023 that I've embraced the genre of drum and bass. And so we've started doing gospel drum and bass. And so growing up, I've had an eclectic taste in music. Grew up with a lot of different music: reggae, blues, hip hop, rock, classical, you name it. And drum and bass was also a genre that I loved through my older brother. Got me into it. And when I became a Christian, it was like I could find, um, you know, um, yeah, gospel songs for every genre or most genres, but drum and bass has been, pretty much untouched. And I would always be looking online, and there was nothing. And then I had some friends that were um, drum and bass MCs in the secular world, and they came to Christ, and we just started making music together. And so we've been doing this. It's really new. Like our first song was called Depraved back in 2023, came out in November 2023. We've been making music since then. I say we because there's a group, there's a small collective of us. We go by Gospel D&B, and yeah, we just wanted to make this music to the glory of God, and reach souls with it as well. But yeah, so that's what we're doing.
That's great. Now,
And
one point of clarification: drum and bass. That term, I actually am not familiar with it. And is is that like just a common term for a specific style, basically? You know, because it doesn't have like extra instruments. It's just based on drum and bass.
So I guess it would come under electronic. So like a lot of our music comes under like electronic dance music. So it comes under that category. But drum and bass in itself is a category alone, I would say, that has many
Yeah.
subcategories. And so yeah, I wouldn't say that drum and bass has to consist of an actual drum set and actual bass guitar. Drum and bass music is usually around 174 BPM, and you've got loads of subcategories. Well, it
It's
started off out,
that's a very upbeat beats per minute.
yeah, it's quite heavy. So you got
Yeah.
started off as jungle, really, late 80s, early 90s, and then drum and bass came out of that. And then you've got liquid drum and bass, which is still, it can be of that BPM, but very mellow, very chilled.
Yeah.
So a bit of liquid. Then you've got jump up, which is a lot more hyper. All there's so many subcategories underneath the category of drum and bass.
mhm.
Yeah.
But it's
I think that's so interesting. And I don't know if it's just because I'm out of the loop, which is very possible, or if it's an expression that we don't use as much here in the US.
A lot of
Because
it's
I
more like, yeah, I was going to say a lot of it's more UK based.
yeah, I think
okay.
so.
Okay.
Imagine,
That's
the
cool.
amazing thing is because I mean I was on my way to the studio earlier with a friend of mine, and I was showing him on Spotify artists. It shows you where most of your listeners are from, and on one of our songs, I was showing like "Hear My Prayer." It has like it's just all of our listeners seem to be in America. It was showing like the main cities where your music's listened to, and London was at 12th. So I'm thinking, man, I want to build up my UK listeners because a lot of them are over in America. which is quite interesting. So the interesting thing about drum and bass, because I think it's quite a niche genre. It's been more of an underground genre for many years. It's very recently becoming more mainstream in the secular world. All of a sudden, it's had a bit of a resurgence. But I think people over in America are embracing it more now as well. People around Europe, but yeah, it's very much a UK sound.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're gonna sample in a second here.
Yeah, just before you go on to that, Ollie,
Yeah.
Sandra's been on tracks with you as well, hasn't she?
Yeah, so she has sung on one of the drum and bass tracks. We've done a few tracks together, but she sung on one of them called "Running," and that's the liquid track, very mellow. Even the rapping on there is mellow. The one you're about to play, "Shotgun," is one of our more hyped up ones. Yeah.
Okay. So this is kind of like typical of the style you're talking about. This one here.
Like I say, it's interesting when you say typical because drum and bass is so broad. So like even in all of the drum and bass songs I've made, there's no like typical sound. It's so vast, and which really is great for such a variety of expression.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that this is, you would say you hear this and you'd say, yeah, it's drum and bass. You wouldn't mistake it.
Okay. You would be able to identify it as drum and
Yeah,
bass by
yeah,
hearing
yeah.
it. Yeah. And what's the story behind this song? Like, why was it written? How was it created? And
Do you know, it's amazing actually because it's really, really hard to find. So it is a little something. It's like really hard to find. So you have to buy beats as an artist, as a writer. I don't produce my own beats, so I have to buy beats off of a producer. And usually you'd go on YouTube and you would type in, like, say, hip hop beat or something, and you'd have loads and loads and loads. There's hardly anything for drum and bass because drum and bass itself, it is a music that can exist without any vocals on it, like classical, right? Classical. I like to think of drum and bass as a modern classical if you take away the lyrics, right? But so what that means is a lot of producers are signed to labels and therefore don't actually sell beats. It can be very hard to find beats. I came across this instrumental on YouTube, and I noticed that the guy didn't have a link on it for purchase. So I found him on Instagram and I messaged him. I was like, "Oh, I want to buy this beat. Like, how much can you sell it to me for?" And he saw I was a Christian. He's like, "You're a Christian? I'm going to give you this beat." I was like, "Oh, praise the Lord!" That saves me about
that's
150,
awesome.
£200, and
Wow.
and so yeah, so me and Angler, I sent it to my friend Angler, and he started writing to it. He came up with a verse straight away. I was really struggling to write to this, and Angler has this part about being hit with a sawn off, like the word of God. Like the word of God is likened to a double edged sword. So in this song, you kind of liken it to a shotgun, and so then we reached out to our friend Saros, who's a great artist. I mean, he's someone worth getting on there because his testimony is just, the way what Lord's done in his life is beautiful, man. But yes, Saros came with this hook on it and a verse, and as soon as he done that, I was able to then write my verse. But it's about the word of God and how that the power in God's word, and how God has transformed our lives and continues to do so.
Wow. So it's like almost like a modern adaptation of the idea of a sword
Yeah, yeah, I would say
in a
so.
way.
I
Yeah.
also like to think of, I guess a shotgun isn't really what you'd have on a front line, but I think I find it helpful to remind myself to bring that like sword to a modern weapon. To think I wouldn't want to be on the front line about my weapon, but it was angling.
Does anyone in the UK own a shotgun
Yeah, probably illegally.
illegally?
Unless, or maybe,
I should have qualified that. Legally own a shotgun.
yeah, I don't know.
Legally, they definitely do.
Yeah,
So someday you guys can come over here and shoot some shotguns.
that's it, man. We'll do some clay pigeon shooting or something. Or is that just a British thing?
Well, when I've seen people shoot It's more like hunting rifles that I see.
Okay, right, right.
A lot of people do hunting around here.
They wear tweed like we do over here for hunting. Like everyone would wear, they'd wear tweed over here if you're hunting. They do that in America.
Definitely not.
Tweed. I was thinking more like camouflage. I don't know if that is related to what you're talking about.
No, tweed would be more like.
This is more for your gentlemen.
Do you ever see
right.
Tim the old?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, like the prim and proper.
Prim and proper, mate. I said that in the least prim and proper way I could ever say it. As you can tell, I'm not very prim and proper. My wife is, but yeah, I'm not.
I mean, I'm an American. Yeah, we've been very distant from high culture England.
Well, Colton's just saying in Texas there are more guns than people, so there we go.
I can well believe.
Well, we got a little sidetracked there because of me. I'm sorry. So let's play the clip here. Should I play it to the end?
Yeah,
if you want, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'll play it out here, and you're front and center on this clip here. So let me. Okay, here we go.
Blasted with a double barrel into my heart, it ripped apart even my skull and marrow. Yeah, that's the NT and the OT, that's the master's manual. Had to kill the old me cause my heart was hard and shallow, but now I know my father's hallowed. I didn't know him before, but now I know he exists. I didn't know I was heading straight down to the deep abyss, until I could see my sins and see I'm in need of him, and know that one day I will die and I will meet the king. But see, his word has pierced me harder than a dart or arrow, made me to depart to now embark upon the path that's narrow. And while I'm marching through this darkest valley, they wanna be laughing at me cause I praise my father gladly. But that's the power of the Lord, he is the most high. Came and changed my whole life, now I know I won't die. Looking up to God's son, he saved these lost ones. Let the scripture spray, the truth hit me like a shotgun. Boom! Like a shotgun, a the power, the God man. Say the father crush him one son. How where them a go run when me God come kaboom? Like a time bomb, a the power, the God man. Me say the father crush him one son. How where them a go run when me God come? God come.
Great. So this music that you're producing isn't just because you're trying to do something that's merely artistic. It's like actually tied in with ministry, right?
Right. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to do music if it wasn't, in the sense of ministry. I feel like I'd have no need to. I mean, first off, I want to just praise God. Do you know what I mean? I want to worship the Lord, regardless of who listens, and I hope I hope it is. But yeah, it's like I say, drum and bass is very, very niche, and it's been quite interesting because we've been invited into some areas that are secular, really, to share the gospel, whether that be drum and bass events and whatnot, and yeah, so it's quite an interesting one. But I often use music on the street, not to try and win people with the music solely. We know that the gospel is the power of God unto salvation, but oftentimes we're out on the streets. We'll bring a PA system, and we will not just have drum and bass music. There might be spoken word. There might be just songs of praise, and we worship the Lord in the street. And as people come around and hear what we're doing in between the songs, as people gather through the songs, we preach the gospel, whilst there are people receiving tracts, whilst there be evangelists going around. And so, we use it as a means leading to the gospel, and not the be all and end all in itself. We always want to point to Christ, and even in the music itself, it's very Christocentric. It's very evangelistic. There are a lot of Christian artists that like I've got friends who do a bit more of a social commentary on society from a Christian perspective, or talk about their life from a Christian perspective. And so I don't think every Christian song needs to have an evangelistic nature. But I think the way that I'm wired as an evangelist, it often comes out like in the music. The gospel will come out, or some testimonial kind of will come out in the writing. But yeah, so we use that when we go out on the streets. Yeah.
And you can
And
normally see that on your Instagram clips as well. You share, sometimes in your stories, you share the little times maybe where someone's doing spoken word or whatever, and people are going by and you're sharing the gospel and stuff. So people can check that out on Instagram.
Yeah.
And what specifically are you doing in your context? Like, where do you go, and like
Yeah.
what kind of places are you at these days?
Yeah, so I work for an organisation called London City Mission. They've been around for 190 years, founded on May the 16th, 1835. And it's wonderful, really, because I am a missionary, and many people would see a missionary as someone that's going abroad, which that is, and that's great. There's many great people who've gone before us, and at present doing wonderful works abroad. But it's wonderful to know that you can be a missionary in your local setting as well. And so the work that I'm doing, when we last spoke, when I was last on your channel, Tim, I was doing prison ministry. At that time, I was going into a prison and bringing other people from churches in, and we were holding services in prison. Now I'm working in southeast London in the borough of Lewisham. So my focus is on the Lewisham borough and working with churches across the borough to mobilise them into ministry. So the interesting thing about this is, I think evangelists can often be your kind of mavericks, and often maybe the annoying person in the pastor's ear, and they want to do all the things, and it's kind of like, they're the go-to person. But London, what I love what London City Mission has done is, because it used to be that we were missionaries placed with a church or placed in a centre, and we were the people in an area doing the work. But then they reshaped it in 2020, believing that through Scripture, the church is God's, is God's missional people. It's the church. It's not a para organisation. It's not a para church organisation, rather. And in Ephesians, when you get the list of pastors, preachers, evangelists, and so on, it's interesting that in Ephesians 4 it says for the equipping of the church. And I think the evangelist isn't always aware that they are an evangelist also for the equipping of the church. And so what we are doing is we are partnering with churches across the borough, and we are wanting to replace ourselves. So the ministry focus that I mainly have is on council estates and seniors. And so a lot of it is door-to-door ministry and street evangelism. And so we train up teams. For instance, we're working with a church at the moment in a place within the Lewisham Borough called Catford, working with a lovely church called New Life Church Catford. We've been working with them for the past, since March 2024. And we've been doing stuff with them, going out on the streets, doing street evangelism. They're now mobilised in street evangelism, so we've stepped back from that. And now we're continuing into one more year, till March 2025, to train up their doors team. We've been training up a door-to-door team. So we've got a team of people on the streets, team of people on the doors, and we're doing this with a number of churches across the boroughs. So this is really our heart, seeing, these beautiful things happen with God using ordinary, everyday people, people that you wouldn't choose. I've been reflecting recently on Jesus feeding the thousands. And, I was thinking about this. I was thinking, if in a modern context, if there's thousands turn up, I think, we need a Michelin style restaurant. We need Salt Bay to turn up, chopping up some steak or something, And if I take that thinking into a theological sense, practically, what does that look like? Well, we need the best looking people. We need the most influential people. It becomes a very much of a seeker friendly kind of ideology, but also the kind of, we need the people that just look normal and will do this stuff. And actually, no, we need the little kid that has 5 loaves and some stinking sardine sandwiches and brings them to Jesus. Because it ain't even about the kid; it's about Jesus. He doesn't even need the sandwiches. He can make it out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're finding with ministry. That oftentimes it's people that we wouldn't choose. It's people that can hardly walk and will sit on a bench and just hold up a tract while the others are street preaching or whatnot. It's people that look unkept and they're knocking on doors and sharing the gospel with people. It's random people. And it's a bunch of misfits, including me, that the Lord is using for His glory. And it's wonderful because when we go to churches and we want to work with pastors, we always want to let pastors know we don't want to give you more work to do. This is not for you. You focus on the elders focus on the preaching of God's word. Let us come and come alongside you, train up your people. We don't want to give you more work. That's the last thing we want to do. And what we hear sometimes by elders in the church is, oh, we don't know if we've got the right people. And what does that mean? Who are the right people? Because often the people are overlooked. Often they're the people that you would never consider. And that's what we've been finding. And that's the beautiful thing about it. And I just need to remind my old prideful self that I'm in that number. I am why should anyone choose me? Who am I? And that's the wonderful, wonderful thing about it. And we're seeing God just do wonderful, wonderful things in that way.
Yeah. No,
That's awesome.
I know. Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
No, just was saying how great that is. Go ahead.
I know what your answer would have been 2 years ago, but now that you're in going door to door versus the prison ministry, do you prefer the door to door?
So right, I do you know what I love? Just the amount of different people you speak with on the doors. Like, I don't think it's a matter of preferring, Nicholas. I think I know in certain times when God has you in a place and it's right in that time. You know, when we moved to Lewisham, where we're at in Southeast London, we never wanted to move here. Really, we didn't want to, and London City Mission moved us here, and now we absolutely love it, and we recognise that we're where God wants us to be. God's people in God's place, and doing what God wants us to do, and that makes it so enjoyable. I love doing doors ministry. I can't compare it to anything. It's amazing. And do you know what's so amazing about doors is that the people that we bring out on doors with us, we just say any preconceptions you have in your mind, blow it out the window because you're going to be surprised. It's always so amazing. Just the conversations we get into. Obviously sometimes you get someone that's saying, "Get off my doorstep, I'll knock you out" or something. But praise the Lord, all the same. And it's amazing because we will go in an area. And what you'll find is you'll knock doors one day, but if you're taking if you're record of how many doors you've knocked and who you've spoken to, not everyone is in at that time you've came. And so you come back around and you knock the doors again. And so one thing that has been, a real belief system in London City Mission throughout the years is that mission is like, for us, is the same faces in the same places, seeing the same faces. So, 3 months later, you go quarterly, right? Or you might do more frequently if you built up a particularly good relationship with someone. You might go back at their door, but you go back, say, "Hey, we're in the area again," and you just revisit. Even if those people might have rejected you before, there's testimonies of people rejecting before and then really being open the next time we knock. And the aim is we always want to share the gospel, but we also have the opportunity where people aren't in a rush to, share Christ-like love in our deeds as well. I find that there's a polarization where you've got a social justice movement, which often is just throwing the gospel out the window. And then you've got people who just want to proclaim the gospel, but then actually forget that God calls us to a good work that He's prepared beforehand, that people will see the good works and glorify God. We know that we're not saved by works. And I often lean more into that side where it's like, right, gospel, got to get the gospel out, got to get the gospel out there. The wonderful thing about the doors is that you might be speaking to someone and see that you're sharing the gospel. So I was speaking to a Muslim lady on the door, and she was from America, and she was sharing how. So we were talking about. I was sharing the gospel with her, and it was heated. It was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and she shared how she had sickle cell and that she's often in pain. And I was like, oh, are you in pain right now? And she goes, yeah, I am. I was like, we've been having quite a long conversation. I really appreciate you standing here. Do you know, if you ever did want to come to church, it is around the corner from you, but someone could knock on your door, help you, or pick you up in the car. I said, or even if you needed help with your shopping, someone can come and do your shopping. And she goes, I would never ask that. And she probably will never ever ask that. But do you know what? It was amazing that we could say to this lady who's a Muslim, we could offer this love to her, and she's left this impression. Oh, the Christians would be willing to go to the supermarket for me. The other day I knocked on a door and this guy answered, and he was clearly gay, right? And he answers, and I say, "Hello there, mate. Just from the local church, just inviting the neighbourhood to church." And he goes, he didn't say that he was gay straight away. He goes, "I wouldn't come to that because I'm a Wiccan." So he didn't say I wouldn't come to that because I'm gay. He said I wouldn't come to that because I'm a Wiccan. No, I know a little bit, but I thought, okay, let me ask him. I said, "Oh man, I'm really interested to get to know you. Can you share a bit about that with me?" Like the temptation would be to go, "Oh, get back, get back." And actually, I said, "I'm really interested to know about it. Can you share this? Like, what do you believe?" And he goes, "Well, we believe in many deities, but I follow one God, and it's this God of nature and whatnot." And he's speaking, and it all sounds a bit demonic to me. And I said to him, "Okay, so how does your belief answer to all the problems in the world?" And he says, "Well, we believe that people are the cause of that." I said, "Okay, right." I said, "So there's two things that we have in common here. We believe in the God, and we believe in sin. So now, how do we deal? How does Wiccan deal with this matter?" And look, I don't know if what I'm about to share is an accurate representation of the Wiccan belief. There might be some that would misrepresent what we would say are Christian fundamentals. So let me not say that this is, but this is what he said. He said that, well, we would speak to the shadow deities and reconcile with these shadow deities and whatnot. Was what he was saying, right? And so I then was able to talk about reconciliation with God the Most High, the God of all nature, using his words, right? And how Christ does that. And this is then afterwards, and then I told him, I did a bit of the Ray Comfort kind of thing on him, and we went through the law and that, and then he said, "Well, Christians have told me that I'm going to hell because I'm gay." So I'm like, "Okay, we've got to this place." He goes, "Well, I don't know if you could tell by my voice," and I'm thinking, "Yeah, mate, I've clocked this half hour ago." He goes, "Well, Christians have told me I'm going to hell because I'm gay." So then I said to him, I said, "Look, mate, we're knocking doors, right, in your neighbourhood, and we're not only just knocking doors on places where we think there's gay people, because let me tell you, your neighbours don't get to heaven because they're straight, right?" So I wanted him to know that, so I'm not compartmentalising it, but also I didn't want him to then think that I'm condoning it. Right. So then, it was then what was interesting was then I could then speak to him about God's design for a relationship, the gospel in relationship, how we are united with God, a distinct being to ourselves, and we become one with him, and how this earthly marriage is a representation of this, but then in getting to know the person, so you could see how instead of just going, "Oh, get away," I could use his language to say, right, well, we agree on some things here, right? And because I think oftentimes we see if someone's not a Christian, they ain't got truth. Well, there's truth in that there's a God that exists, and there's truth that people cause problems, right? Just like if I need to know about maths, I don't need to go to a Christian mathematician. I can go to a mathematician and get truth from them. But then I was telling him the truth then, because hearing of his desire for a relationship with Christ is far better than any relationship, heterosexual, homosexual, you name it, right? And he is the great God who loves us regardless of all our filth and come to reconcile us and save us from the wrath of God. And what was so interesting is we got to a point where it was clear, you know, our views are different. And I said, look, mate, we don't have to. You know, we can be straight talking here. You're standing there and you disagree with me, but I tell you what, I disagree with you as well, and that's fine. And that's a beautiful thing when you can get to this place where you're able to say that, right? And the person not feeling rejected in this sense, right? But I said to him, but I'm here because you are in danger, right? Like without Christ, whether you agree with this or not, you are doomed without him. You will pay the price for your sin without him. But he could see that now that this was coming from a place of caring. And I really believe that this was getting to know him. And at the end of it, he took a church invite, the invite he gave back. And I found that to be fascinating. Now, I don't know if he'll ever come. He heard the gospel, the seed is sown there. I don't know if he's good soil, but God does. But this is something that's happening in me. The wonderful thing about doors is you're meeting different people all the time. Whereas in prison, I'd see pretty much the same people quite frequently. I'm having to develop all the time. When someone answers their door and they come with something I ain't thought of before, I have to go away and think about that and think, what could I have done better? And I've seen that I'm a person where, you know, we respond in extreme sometimes, and to the extreme where there's a real progressive movement in the UK where there's just all this, where we're reduced to good works and we're reduced to social workers. I go to the extreme of like, no, gospel, we need the gospel. And actually the Lord's doing the work in me, and how I can share that and love people, and also try and be there for them practically on their doors, so that I might be able to go back again. And we always offer this is a new resource here that we've got. This is fantastic. You can't get this in America. So in England, people love a newspaper. Maybe not so much now. Now there's a you know, it's all on your phones. But this here is a Mark's Gospel, and so we're giving these out to people, and it's not got any chapters or any verses. The London City Mission actually worked in collaboration with Good News for London on this, with a number of other charities. But what's so great about this is it's got a QR code on the back, and the camera's all inverted. It's proper throwing me off.
No, we can see it.
Yeah, we see it fine.
It's got this QR code at the back, and when someone scans that, they can put what borough in London they're in, and it comes up with churches local to them that they can go to. And so it's fantastic. We've got a whole load of resources that we give to people, but this is one of the ones we're enjoying lately. And it means that someone can read it in public without, you know, if they're not a Christian, without worrying, oh, people can see I'm reading the Bible, or, you know. But yes, that's a bit of what we're getting up to.
That's awesome. Well, we're gonna start steering and talking about the culture. You've already been talking about reaching out. Now, to kind of blend the two a little bit together, we've talked about music, culture. I want to show a video, something I happened to see the other day, and I want to get your feedback as a musician on this. I guess this was in Brazil.
Rapaz, que é isso?
Gente, é show de talento.
All right, so that was an interesting thing that people started sharing on social media. I guess it kind of like shocked. But what are your thoughts on the juxtaposition of like the very traditional garb, and then all of a sudden she's beatboxing?
Before I get to that, I guess I just want to frame it a bit, because I don't know what to make of it, and I'm very aware that I don't always know what is right or not in regards to these kind of nuanced things.
Yes,
I think things are. I like things to be black and white, and I think things are a lot more nuanced at times, because God sees the heart. Now, they're Catholics, so I'm not a Catholic, but as a rapper, I am not always quick to embrace gospel rap music, I must say. Well, if you ask me my favorite kind of music, it'd be like, it's gospel, but soul. I like soul music. I like country music, and you can find gospel, gospel soul, gospel country. So I'm a bit weird like that. But the reason why is I think you've got to be very careful with rap music, because oftentimes it can. I know this is not. Even the person that is so theologically sound has to watch their heart. So it's very easy sometimes to hear when people are in their lyrics saying about how much they pray or how much they fast or this or that, and the other. Or it sounds a bit worldly and whatnot, and that can be quite easy to spot sometimes. And I don't always take to it, and I'm a bit standoffish with it. But I'm also aware as well that something doesn't become sin because someone pressed a digital sounding a button of. I was speaking to kids in a school the other day. It's a Christian school, and the topic was on what music should we listen to. And I remember one kid at the end, he was asking me about the drums, and I said, the moment you bang a drum, you haven't sinned. Like, oh, he's sinned now, he's banged the drum. We see symbols, we see different things, in scripture. And so is it wrong to beatbox? Is it wrong, or is it an expression? I guess the question is, or one of reverence. Someone could look at my music and think that doesn't seem very reverent, but I'd like to think in my heart that's not so. And I think oftentimes we can look at things like, I remember an evangelist once said to me, "You're wearing worldly clothes," and I was like, "Well, where were your clothes made? Made on Jupiter or something?" And so I don't know. I might be really wrong here, and people might disagree with me here, but I just think things are really hard to kind of say this is right and this is wrong, because something might be a different culture to ourselves.
Yeah, and one reason I brought this up is because it wasn't really like super serious thing. I just think it's a really fascinating thing that just happened to be shared. Actually, the commenter was kind of teasing a little bit. He's above the video. It says this looks like something you'd see on SNL, and some people in our comments thought it looked pretty cringe.
Yeah.
But I think
it looks weird.
It does. What's interesting to me is the juxtaposition of all these things that you're right. I hear what you're saying. Like, it's hard to judge things with music because music is cultural. There's no doubt about it. There's cultural elements, but when you get a juxtaposition, so you're talking about Brazil,
right,
which is its own culture. Then you're talking Catholics who are dressed as Catholic religious and people, and then you also have this style of music that seems outside of both of those categories.
It don't look right, does it?
It really messes with your mind,
It's funny. I mean, I'd have more of an issue with maybe their doctrine than the beatboxing, but
exactly right.
But, I think as well is that we've got to be careful, because even as I've mentioned, like I guess taking it serious again with music, that you don't want to be seeker friendly, and I remember, so one of the churches that I'm partnered with is a really traditional Reformed church, Reformed Baptist church. Suit and tie, love them. I often preach there, and the pastor's mum, she was out in the high street one time, and she was hearing us, and she didn't realise who we were until she saw me, and she's like, "Oh, I was wondering what on earth is that." First, and so even with people that might do what I do, even I feel a bit like, whoa, what is that? And I think there's a real danger where people want to use these things, or people want to look trendy to try and win people in, and we have to be careful with that, because though that might look like what we might be doing, that's not our hope.
And it's possible that the Catholic people in that video, that they just genuinely love that music, right?
They might do. I mean, and beatboxing ain't a sin, is it? Like, it's not a sin. It's not a sin to go. It's not a sin to sing over beatboxing.
Right.
It's not,
it's just so interesting how music is cultural, and you'll sometimes see people do things that you don't expect them to do.
Yeah.
And even in our discussion today about music, you were sharing a term I hadn't heard before, because in your where you are, like there's certain niches of music that are common and talked about, but it's cool, that by our interactions online, you see kind of how different cultures impact each other. And, like you were saying earlier, how in the US, even the style of music that you're doing is becoming more popular here. And so there's a lot of like cross-pollination of different cultures that take place.
And you know what's so interesting is that these genres, when they do go to other countries and other lands, you still find that the kind of people that are listening to them are of a similar category. So drill music is really big over in the UK. I'd say the main form of gospel rap in the UK is gospel drill. But drill music is associated, the secular drill music is associated a lot with gangs and violence.
Okay.
Right? Drum and bass is associated with drugs. Like people that like drum and bass music, like in those that are in the raves and those that aren't just listening to some chilled liquid music to create a chilled atmosphere in their house, whatever. These are people on drugs, man. These are people on E's and ketamine, all sorts. And I remember my mate Angler, because he's from that scene. When his friends were listening, he said his friends were listening to our track "Depraved" whilst getting high on cocaine, and we were thinking, why the heck would you want to do that? Why would you want to listen to a song called "Depraved" talking about total depravity and now there's nothing good within us? And his friend rang him up crying, going, "What is this, bruv? What is this I'm listening to? What are you saying? This is scaring me, And who knows what the Lord will do? I don't know. But it's interesting, the different people that listen to different genres. And, we just want to glorify him and get the gospel out there. So, people don't have an excuse. They've heard.
I feel like if people knew the styles of music I like, it's exactly what you would guess. I'm too predictable maybe, but that being said, I appreciate the skill level and the variety. Even listening to the genre that you produce, I think it's awesome. Now I want to kind of talk about the culture here, and I want to introduce this, show a little short YouTube video about Alex O'Connor.
Yeah.
Do you know who that is, Ollie?
No.
No? Okay. Well, you could just ask your wife.
Yeah, my wife will know.
The thing is, Ollie, I bet you do know him. You probably just don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to show a clip and maybe you'll recognize him. He's kind of, for years, been doing videos online on YouTube, and he was known as Cosmic Skeptic. He was, definitely a real, like, kind of outspoken atheist. And I've noticed, like, he almost kind of is very reflective of like some of the shifts we're seeing, because not only is he having conversations more and more with religious people, but he seems so much softer about it. He just seems more like it's like, it seems like maybe God is softening his heart. But anyway, this video kind of introduced kind of like what's been happening with him. Oops.
Hello, Mike.
That's not what I'm doing.
Hello, Mike. Loyal 11 subscribers.
It's your friendly neighborhood atheist here.
Alex O'Connor. Founder of the YouTube channel Cosmic Skeptic.
Cosmic Skeptic.
He's very smart. You grew very fast. It feels like you went from nothing to suddenly hundreds of thousands of subscribers on YouTube.
Something from nothing, as it were.
Well,
I was just kind of having fun as a teenager. I used to make videos. It's always embarrassing to look at old material, but I'm like swearing.
He's such Abraham.
I look back and I think, this is really bad. It's so clear listening back now that I just didn't understand the argument. But then I look at the comments. He's sort of become consumed with arrogance and pride.
To what extent, when you were in that phase, were you taking your cues from the new atheists?
Stylistically, massively.
To be a cosmic skeptic is a dreadful thing to be, just a horrible position.
That's childish, and it was time to move on.
He is no longer Cosmic Skeptic. He's the artist formerly known as Cosmic Skeptic. He's Alex O'Connor.
He has since given up that moniker.
It's become commonplace for people to say that new atheism is either dead or died.
Hello, Mike.
So I wanted to show that and get you guys' thoughts on it. I guess Nicholas, you're probably more in the know on this particular person. I don't think this is just a rebranding thing. I think there really are some changes in kind of self-reflection. Wouldn't you say?
He is for sure changed. I would put the caveat on this just in case he does see it, because believe it or not, Alex does consume an awful lot of content. And
hi, Alex.
I think,
if you do watch, love to have you on sometime.
You see, that's the thing. I wouldn't even joke, because I think he surprises his
I'm
audience.
not. I genuinely would love to have him on. Yeah.
No. I know you're not, but I mean, like, in general.
Yeah.
Because I think he surprises his audience sometimes with the types of material he will watch, because he'll watch someone with 1 subscriber and maybe someone with 1 million subscribers. Now, he is a very intelligent young man. I will say that about him.
That's what Sandra just said.
Huh?
That's what Sandra just said.
Yes.
She's letting me know who he is.
She's keeping you right.
He, if he's talking to some of the most well-known, highest intellectual, he was recently just had John Lennox on his channel, I think, on Alex's channel. So anyway, he keeps up with these guys. Like he's right with them. He had like a conversation with Dawkins and Peterson, and was like, he could like almost verbatim give exactly what this side was trying to say and what this side was trying. He is really insightful. Yeah.
But what I would say about him is he is still 100% atheist. He would not say he's agnostic.
Well, let me show you something. I want to actually, I think maybe he clarifies that here. Let me show this clip and then we can talk a little bit more. All right.
Yeah. Well, for what it's worth, I think my beliefs are, I'm not a Christian, and that has a lot to do with my lack of trust in the reliability of not so much the Gospels as a whole, but particularly things like the resurrection narratives. But this team of religion is bad and evil and corrupting of thought, I'm not on that boat.
Yes, well, nor am I.
And I'm also not on the boat of saying that God doesn't exist and religion is false. I'm more of an agnostic these days, but I tend to take a more critical tone because that's just sort of who I am and what I do. But
I actually just wanted to play that partly because when you said that, it triggered my mind that he had said that I think there's a little shift there in terms of
because
he does not. Yeah, this is recent. He still doesn't.
That's a definite
he doesn't
change.
believe in God.
Yeah.
So there is a sense in which, but I think he's realized atheism is on a level that he can't really ascribe to, and which is actually a change, isn't it?
Well, that's what I was going to say, because not so long ago he would have said that because he had a debate with David Wood a number of months ago, and he was definitely not in the agnostic position. So the fact that, because I looked in there now, it says 6 days ago, that is a change, which is good to hear.
Well, maybe by the time he spent an hour with John Lennox, that itself changed,
I was encouraged. I mean, I don't know this guy. Sandra, she's just my admin here. Is
informing you.
But, I was encouraged in that little clip you shared that he mentioned how he's arrogant and prideful. And I think because that's not always so easy to see in ourselves. We all think we're right. And, one could say, I was just being zealous for what I believed in, and to say arrogant and prideful, I find that to be encouraging. And, hopefully, who knows, maybe the Lord's doing a work in his life. I don't know the fella, but from what you guys have shown there, even in just that little that little reel itself, you see the progression. Who knows?
He is from England. I don't know exactly where, somewhere closer to where you guys live, the UK. And I feel like I saw something even today that kind of indicated he was, exposed to Christianity. Like, I think it said something like, will I revert to Christianity? So I'm guessing, like, if you grow up in the UK, kind of the default is that you're considered a Christian. Now, you guys, you can correct me or explain this to me because I don't live there. In the U.S., we don't believe in state religion. Like, we have separation of church and state. So, like, yes, there can sometimes be an assumption that Americans are Christians, but it's also very common here for people to be like, I did not grow up in a religious background. I had no affiliation religiously. Would you guess that Alex, if he did grow up in England, let's say, that he like was brought up with a lot of exposure to church? I mean, what's it like there?
Well, just Ollie, before you answer that, this will help you answer the question a little bit. He lives in Oxford.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he's saying that, I would assume that he's had some exposure. I don't feel like someone in England would say, yeah, that, to go back to. I don't think, like, as from what I know, in a white working class background, like, is the religion ain't even in the picture. I think as a kid, I would have said, oh, yeah, I'm a Catholic, because that's what my mum said that she grew up as in the Republic of Ireland, which really means nothing out there. It's more of a political thing, it seems. And so
Now, maybe quickly explain that, because your mom is Irish.
Yeah, so Nicholas will probably be better at explaining that for me. But I guess from her, without going into the political side of things, like, it was just normal. She was one of 12, grew up on a farm in Ireland, and it was normal for you to just go to, a church service or mass, whatever they call it. And, the priest, is normal for the priest to even come around your house and have a cup of tea. But, my mum is born again. Like, she's saved now, praise the Lord. And, like, it's encouraging to see. And when she read the scripture, she was like, how come no one ever told me this? My mum got saved in 2023. She's 71 now. Do you know what I mean? And just, I'm so encouraged by her, because she goes out every single Saturday sharing the gospel in over where she lives in West London. But stuff like just basics. She's like, I'd never heard this before.
Just to give it briefly, like, I've said this on the channel before, but I'll say it again just in case anyone's listening. Ireland and Northern Ireland are the only countries in the world where Protestant and Catholic means something entirely different from anywhere else in the world. Here, if you say you're a Protestant or a Catholic, it's got nothing necessarily to do with your religion. It's more about whether you want a united Ireland or whether you want to remain part of the United Kingdom. So, Ollie, like you were saying about your mum, her growing up Catholic didn't necessarily mean she grew up hearing, the gospel, so to speak. It's more about, like, does she want Ireland to be united, or does she want it, so...
Well, for them, I don't know if that was much of a part of her family thing, although you're absolutely correct. I think it was more just the thing that you do. I do think they were like, I don't know. It's just, I guess for them, you wouldn't think to read the Bible maybe outside of that. You would go to church on a Sunday, and I think it's probably done for much family outside. You're gone.
I'm sorry. I just want to kind of clarify with Alex, though. He is from Oxford, you said. So what's the cultural milieu
Church
there?
Of England,
like,
pretty much.
Church of England. So you think maybe his family would have been, in some way.
So I've got a friend, he's a historian. He's the go-to guy for church history. I mean, he does like Bible tours in London and British Museum Bible tours and that. And he says after Jerusalem, Oxford is the second place after Jerusalem for Christian, like, I don't know, history and whatnot. And he swears by it. But I don't know much about Oxford, but I do know that there's a lot of, I guess, Christian history heritage. But
so,
church
it would be unlikely, living in Oxford, he hasn't had exposure to, and I'm going to air quote here, Christianity in his time of growing up.
He hasn't.
No, I would say it's unlikely that he hadn't. So let me put that a better way. He definitely did in one way or another.
That's
whether
what I thought.
Whether he was exposed to actual Christianity is a different story, because the Church of England is sadly apostate.
I get that, but where I'm going with this is, my guess, my assumption, and if honestly, if he ever did somehow see this, it'd be awesome to have him on. I just would love a conversation with him. We'd try to understand what he's saying because his intellect is, way up there. But anyway, when I see him, I see someone who, like a lot of people, they got into the new atheism. I don't know that he really officially did, but he seemed very influenced and used those books and those authors as people that were, aspirational. And I think that movement was like this, it was definitely some sort of resentment and kind of angst about something about Christian, the way they were thinking about Christianity. And I'm talking about 15 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
The way that, and so Alex would have been a pretty young guy at that time. I mean, you could see in that video how much he's changed in several years. So I think that a lot of people, I'm older than that generation. I'm ahead of that generation, but a lot of people that were in college in the 2000s got swept up in this very secular oriented movement, kind of an anti-Christian movement. And, you think, of course, of Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Daniel Dennett, and Samuel Harris. I think those were the four horsemen of the new atheism. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I think this is a bellwether. I think the fact that Alex O'Connor, he's one of, and I can show you some other clips too, he's one of various people who are like, that new atheism, I've outgrown it. And what I want to ask you guys, though, is, are you definitely seeing things on the ground? Are you seeing changes in mood? Are you seeing changes where you live? Because you both live in very different places. So what's it like in London and what's it like in Northern Ireland spiritually, if you kind of compare where we're at now versus 5-10 years ago?
Do you want to go first, mate, or me?
Yeah, I'm happy to. It's with London. London is so diverse.
It's its own thing, yeah.
you've got all the nations on your doorstep. Do you know what I mean? We're walking down our.
I know it'd be like people asking me about New York City.
Right.
Yeah.
But they
still, and you know what? New York City, right after 9/11, it was definitely much more Christian. I can tell you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's people that were speaking about what we were speaking offline earlier about this quiet revival, and there seems to be something happening against, something that's happening around young, like millennials, Gen Z. I don't know what that looks like. I'm often very skeptical because what I see mainly is a lot of progressiveness and seeker friendliness. And yeah, I'm sure the Lord can, still work within that and bring people to the truth. Those who maybe that might be their first experience, and then they start reading the scriptures. Who knows?
How long have you been doing your ministry now?
Well, since I got saved, bro. So 11 years. 11 years.
That's enough time, though, for you to see if there has been any kind of a general shift in mood.
Well, what I mean, the shift that I've seen is that the state church, which really, I guess, what your mind goes to when you think of, what's happening, I guess, is going more and more, looking like the world. And so when you see then where it's saying, quiet revival, you start to think, are these people going to, these kind of churches? I don't know. But what I can say, I mean, for instance, like with this one church I mentioned earlier, one of the churches we work with, New Life, we've been doing ministry for a year and we've seen over 20 people come to the church. Not all have stayed, but that's people visiting. I mean, I'm talking, we'd knock doors and then you'd get 2 people come to the church following Sunday. And I'm like, what's going on here? Because I do evangelism with my church and I haven't seen one person come in a very, very long time, for a couple of years. And consistently, we've been seeing people coming through the doors. And this, where they meet is in a proper estate. council estate where people have got fridges outside of their houses and sofas at the end of the streets, and and people maybe just wanting a bit of community. So it's very hard for me to answer because I meet with a lot of different people, so it's not really, I don't really get a clear view of what's happening.
Yeah, true.
And I see things in a very scoped in place where I'm seeing God moving in like these pockets where it seems that things are kind of happening. And I don't know, but then when I'm working with other churches or in other parts of the borough, that's not the same case. So it's very hard to know. Who knows what God's doing? But if there is a quiet revival, like praise the Lord. I do think a lot of people who are genuine Christians are, wanting to get out there more. I am seeing a lot more now where you got people, millennials, are hungry to get out on the streets. I'm seeing a lot more street preaching now, actually, than a few years ago. I must say, I'm seeing a lot more people. There's a lot of stigma around street preaching. I've got a friend of mine. He's quite known on social media. I mean, even Ruslan showed one of his street preaching videos. A guy from Newcastle called Curtis, big mixed heritage guy. OSXKM, On Streets Kingdom Ministry. Lovely, lovely brother. Mm-hmm. And hearing him say, he said, the people that don't complain about street preachers are those who get saved through it. So I'm seeing a lot of young, zealous people getting out on the streets and have a desire to get out there. So, God is doing stuff. There's always something happening, isn't it? God's always doing something. True. So he's done something in our lives. There's many more like us.
Thank you. Thank you for, giving that insight, because you're on the ground. So I think that perspective is important to hear. Statistics, they do give you part of the picture, but it kind of depends on what you're basing those statistics on. I want to hear about Northern Ireland too. What are you sensing in your area?
There's change for sure, but it's only rumblings at the moment. It'll probably be a while before we see any actual fruit of it, but I've talked about this a lot in this last few streams anyway, is I am seeing a massive uptick in young men especially who are searching for something more than what culture can provide them. These are young men that are turning away from more low church backgrounds to seeking out high church backgrounds like Presbyterian, Anglican. They're searching for something deeper. They're searching for something more. These are young men that are picking up, and reading old dead guys, like old philosophers, old theologians. There's a real hunger and a desire for, as I say, like, it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but it's just true. There's a desire for more than what modern day culture has given them. Now, myself and Ollie's generation, we kind of grew up in the stage where the new atheism was flourishing because it was just a growing movement at the time. A lot of people, I think, probably around Ollie and I's age when we were younger, not involved in the movement, but like there was this vibe almost that Christianity didn't have two legs to stand on. And it was because these new atheists sounded incredibly smart, and you had a lot of young people that just did not know how to defend their faith. It's only when I got older and started studying my faith more and getting into apologetics that I knew how to defend my faith. But it was me and like a handful of others that were doing that type of study to get ready to defend their faith. As we're nowadays, the change I'm seeing is shifting. I'm seeing not just a few people, I'm seeing mass amounts, especially because I keep saying young men, but it's because it's young men I work with. But I'm seeing these young men getting in and reading books that even I haven't read. Like, they are reading old 7-volume commentaries on theology, and I'm like, right, okay. These men are hungering. And I would say it's probably true of the women as well. But like, as for Northern Ireland culturally, we're in a weird mix between, we're still technically considered a Christian country, more post-Christian to be honest, but I could see that changing.
Do you know what? Just as listening to you, bruv, something's like I've noticed that's been happening over here, and it probably would happen less in Northern Ireland due to what Catholic and Protestant means. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of young people now turning to Roman Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy. Now, I don't know why that is, but I mean, I wonder, like I say, we have a tendency to go to extremes and respond to extremes with extremes. And I wonder if that's the extreme response to the kind of like liberality or irreverence where, everything is more like, feelings and stuff, which is quite interesting because you go over to that and it's actually still the same thing where it feels more reverential. But young people are wanting the depth of something. They're wanting something substantial. They don't be like this don't be like the world to win the world, which we know is not biblical anyways. But people are wanting to, have something that's distinct. Like people, it's really interesting with the internet. I guess you're seeing less atheists now in the internet generation.
It is, because the more you study it, like I have plenty of atheist friends, and even they would say there's more and more of them that are shifting to agnosticism because it's much easier to defend. It's easier to defend I don't know than the definitive claim of there is no God. But you missed, like, we've had streams over this last couple of weeks where we were talking about this. That is a huge reason why you're seeing young people convert to Rome or convert to Eastern Orthodoxy. And it's something that I've been talking about and lamenting about. If more churches were, because like within the Reformed sphere, if you go to a very reverent Presbyterian church, or if you go to a reverent Anglican church or Lutheran church, you're going to get more high church liturgy, which is what young people are seeking at the moment. And what I would caution about there is, don't just seek the liturgy. Like, you have to be seeking God. But the swing is, because they're so tired of this modern feeling of everything's just, it passes, truth's not really relevant, everything looks drab and boring. People are going to, like, I actually know a guy that has converted or is in the process of converting to Catholicism because the churches are more beautiful. Now, that's a horrendous argument for converting to Catholicism, but that's what we're seeing in the culture, and it's because young people now are hungering for something that's got the appeal of being ancient, something that's got the appeal of being authoritative. So I honestly keep... Sorry?
John Calvin, he said, we'll cling to any empty semblance of righteousness rather than righteousness itself.
Mm-hmm.
I was speaking to a friend the other day, and we were just talking about, when people have gone away from the faith. And he was making a big emphasis on this confidence based on the research that he's done and whatnot. And it was kind of like, well, yeah. But then the conversation went, well, actually, bro, like, we must be born again. You must be born again. Because with that as well, brothers, and, I say this as a Reformed guy, that I've got friends who are like different in every way to me on all of the secondary matters.
Yep.
And I am so moved by their love and their desire to be near to Christ, right? And I'm inspired more by people like that than those who have all of the theology and just seem to be cold, which I often have to check in myself. Not saying I've got all the theology, but but I just think, this is again with the nuance thing I was talking about earlier, especially someone that likes things to be black and white. So I'm going on a tangent. I'm going off again, but maybe it's necessary. I just think I think I'm in a place, especially where in London, where I'm working with different churches, where you get these extremes where you're like, no, I certainly wouldn't work with them. I feel like the Lord's done a work in my heart to really appreciate those who really do love Jesus and really are for the gospel, but we differ on the secondary. And I've started to just have this sense of generosity in my heart to those who aren't like me, and be really, really moved by them. Because I think in the Reformed world, there's a danger there. In the Reformed world, Reformed people are at most danger of being like the Pharisees. And then in the Pentecostal world, I think they're at most danger of being like almost New Age. Everyone's like, it's just Christ. We just need Jesus. We need Jesus. We need him more, and we need him more and more.
Amen.
Kind of hitting on something that you've been kind of talking about, Ollie, with all of this. Colton, I think he quotes Gavin Ortlund here, so I'll put it up here, and I think this will resonate. I think this will resonate with you. This is Gavin Ortlund said, "I'd rather worship Jesus in a sewer with orthodoxy than in a cathedral with heresy."
So this is in his most recent discussion with Redeemed Zoomer today.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when he says orthodoxy, just so everybody understands, he's not talking about
it's small, though.
Eastern Orthodox or like some sort of a denomination. He's talking, small orthodoxy, like someone who has the essentials, which is what Ollie is talking about here.
Yeah.
Has been born again, which is what you referred to earlier, than someone who is heretical in their beliefs, but you're worshiping in a cathedral. Yeah. I haven't watched that yet, but I think that might be a video of discussion for us, Nicholas.
I already have it on the list. I haven't watched it myself, but I've already heard some of the quotes, and
Gavin Ortlund
knowing Redeemed Zoomer's views, I'll have a few things to say.
So no, now my wife would have been better to be on here than me. I'm clueless.
That's okay. She can just feed you any answers right now. Just keep looking at your phone.
Keep texting me.
All right, I got to put this up here. I actually want to share this, make a clarification. So Joe Rogan has started going to church. Nicholas informed us that even though it says in the subtitle here that Wes Huff is the one who said this, that may not be true. Wes Huff kind of said that he wasn't the one who said that, right?
Next, so yeah.
What I also want to add to this, though, or I'll ask you to guess this, and I think this is true. I looked it up while we were talking. Can you guess what kind of a church Joe Rogan is going to? If you had to guess. It's okay if you're wrong. I'm just curious, like, what would be your guess if you just had to say,
that's what I'm
with
trying
the
to
trends
think.
that are happening, everything we've been talking about, what are the trends?
Catholic church, is he?
It's close. It's not Catholic. It's.
I was going to say, if I had to guess with him, it would be Eastern Orthodoxy.
It's I mean, now this is just a YouTube search. It says Joe Rogan has stated he is attending an Orthodox church. Well, now, I haven't verified. I just make this clear. I haven't verified that.
Yeah.
But that's what the internet search brought up. So that's very possible. And it wouldn't surprise me.
That's the reason why I hesitated, because Rogan is not a... I want to word this delicately so people don't think I'm insulting him for the sake of it. Rogan is the type of man that if he was going to start going to church, he would want something that has a lot of historicity and depth behind it. So like ritual, and so it doesn't surprise me that he's going to an Eastern Orthodox church, because if you told me he was going to like a mega church, for example, it wouldn't have fit.
Yeah, especially in the current cultural movement, because it's also timing when someone, and who they encounter. That's another factor. I'm curious as to what led Joe Rogan. I know Wes Huff definitely had a great impact on him. I do believe that. But Wes Huff is definitely not Orthodox to my knowledge.
He's Baptist.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. But Joe's had so many discussions recently. Like, again, I know there's a Roman Catholic, but like he's had Mel Gibson on that he's been talking religion with. I forget his comedian friend, who's also in the process of either has converted to Rome or he's in the process of it. So Joe is surrounded by quite a few people that talk church to him, and I do know, while he's never been on the podcast as of yet, I do know Ruslan and Rogan have had some contact as well. So,
and again, Ruslan is definitely not like an Orthodox Eastern Orthodox or anything like that in terms of denomination.
He's Wesleyan, as far as I know.
Yep. Okay. Is he? I didn't know that.
Well, I'll not say that definitively, but I have heard him say multiple times, and he has quoted Wesley numerous times, and he uses a lot of Wesleyan articulation. So if he doesn't attend a church that's Wesleyan, he seems to definitely personally align with Wesley.
Okay. Interesting. So yeah, I think this story here is just another example. Now, someone that Joe Rogan had on his program, maybe this will be one more clip I'll show today.
Mm-hmm.
This was a guy, interestingly, he debated, what's his name? Douglas Murray. And that was kind of a big talking point for a while, where Douglas Murray and I think his name is Dave Smith.
Not sure.
I think it's, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know this guy real well, but I'll show you this clip of him. He was, I think, on Joe Rogan, and he talks here about going from being I guess a militant atheist to more recently believing in God. Now you'll hear there's definitely a vagueness to this testimony for sure, but it's really interesting to see what he says about this experience. So I'm going to just play this little clip for you guys and get your thoughts on it.
And there was one, like, again, I'm almost a little uncomfortable talking about these things because I like talking about things where I have like a real tight argument that I can prove is irrefutable. This is a more
profound argument, actually.
But
hey everyone, big heads up! Paleo Valley's running a sale on all their meat sticks right now.
I should have known it was going to go to a
$36, which comes.
Nah, here we go.
It was something where I was like, look, so in the moment when it was really all on the line and out of my control, I wasn't thinking maybe God exists. I knew for a 100% certainty, unlike nothing I've ever known in my life, that not only did I know that God existed, but I knew what he wanted from me. Like, I knew what my negotiating power in this was, is that I could, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could promise I'll be a good person. So not only did I know God existed, I knew that God wanted me to be a good person. And and look, this is something that people who have found God know, and people who don't believe in God maybe will not accept. But there is something to when you open yourself up like that to God, you find out that he's real. And it's not like he speaks to you or he hallucinates. I don't see a fiery bush and the words of God started talking, but he fills you. When you open yourself like that to it, you get filled by it. And there's no more debate in your mind over whether that's a real phenomenon or not. You're like, and any more than if I were to leave here and someone were to be like, do you believe in Tucker Carlson? And I'd be like, no, I know for certain. I know for a certainty that Tucker Carlson exists. I was just with him. It's like that. And so it was.
Okay. So I should give a little background. I didn't share the whole thing, obviously. What he was explaining is this experience he had. He had been an atheist, and I guess he said he was a militant atheist.
Mm-hmm.
But he, when his wife was pregnant and giving birth, there was a lot of complications, and that child was really in danger. And I guess his wife was also in danger, and it rocked his world. And he was just obviously at a real crisis point. But in that moment is when he just prayed. It just came automatically to him that he prayed. And he basically...
Oh.
We can't hear you, bro.
You're gone.
Yeah, it cut out before too. Yeah, it cut out before. Hold on one second.
We're going to have to take over.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear you.
You hear me okay? All right. So this experience he had led him to, he calls it negotiating, where he was basically saying, God, if you will protect my wife, protect my baby, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna be better. But what's interesting about that is how much that sounds like what Paul says. about how people knew God. Like, even though they didn't acknowledge him, deep down, they knew some things about God. And that's, I hear that in what his testimony is. I'd like to hear you guys, if you have any thoughts on what you just heard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I was interpreting this differently. I mean, he talks about he knew that God wanted him to be a good person. And for me, that's, it's always a red flag. And I think if you've had a meet with God, and that's what you've come out with, then you don't need to meet with God to be thinking like that, because that's what the unregenerate person thinks. You are someone like, how do you get to heaven? They say just be a good person. It's interesting you'd call it negotiating, because it sounds like bribing God, don't it? It sounds like I don't know who this guy is. I don't know anything.
I don't know him very well either, to be honest. I'd have to. I want to say he's a comedian.
No, while you're checking that, I would add this in, like, you do hear language like this a lot from someone who's just new to the faith, and like, not that this is what we're doing, but like, Ollie, you were chatting about this earlier too, is like, especially younger believers, they don't often use very accurate theological language. So I wouldn't even take what he's saying here as in like he negotiated with God as like him promoting this as like, this is what you do. I think he was probably just being raw and real and being like, I did negotiate with God. I was kind of like, no, that doesn't mean obviously that God negotiated back, but this is his type of understanding of how it happened. But like, there's that old phrase, and I'm probably going to butcher it right now, but it's something like, there's no atheist upon his deathbed.
Yeah. I mean, I have hope. Obviously, the way people come to the gospel, it can be unique to them in terms of like the specific pathway.
Yep.
And hold on, motorcycle keeps going by. I would say, it is possible that, God is working in his life. And maybe he's even hearing the gospel somewhere. We can hope that. Certainly, I think with Wes Huff in these circles right now, talking to Joe Rogan and becoming very high profile, I would imagine people are hearing the gospel.
Oh, they are.
They're listening. They're listening to these things. So I agree with you, Nicholas. I agree with both of you. I think we need to wait and see where this goes, because at some point, if the gospel really penetrates, he's going to be able to articulate it. But it is possible that God is working. We'll see the fruit as time goes on. But I am noticing it is a very interesting time. We're gonna talk a little bit about Jordan Peterson soon, because Jordan Peterson is someone who I would say has actually stood against staunch atheism, and yet he can't really say he's a Christian.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that too, where it's just like a religious sentiment taking place. And what I hear you saying, Ollie, is you have some skepticism about people. Just because they start going to church, it doesn't mean they've truly been regenerated. Am I
also
hearing you correctly?
How nuanced things are, and we love things to be black and white, isn't it? But we do have to be careful of that, don't we? We do have to remember that as well. But God knows the heart. But I think, I remember seeing Jordan Peterson speaking with what's his face, the atheist, Dawkins, and what was it? He couldn't. What was it? He couldn't say that he believed in, that he couldn't answer a simple question. Was it the virgin birth or resurrection or something? It was
pretty. Like, I'm not saying this to be facetious, but Peterson can't give an honest answer to any question on religion. So
he just couldn't respond to the challenge.
I think even when he was asked, "Do you believe in God?" he said, "Well, it depends on what you mean by believe."
Right. And what you mean by God.
It comes down to, I try to act as if God is there, as if he exists. But belief to him And actually, this is really specifically gets into what we wanted to talk about a little bit here, which is he just did it's on a channel called Jubilee, I think, and he goes up in this kind of this, it's called a surrounded context, like he's surrounded by these people that are atheists, and they take turns challenging him on a few different propositions that he's making. He's saying this is a proposition I believe to be true, and then they challenge him. Anyway, even in that conversation where he was talking to people, he would say, like, belief is something you have to give your life for. Like, you have to be willing to die for it. So he doesn't even always come out and say he believes in God. I think there are various reasons why he doesn't say that. But in the conversation he had with the atheists, it seems like to him, God is he's not. It's almost like he's not sure he can define God in any kind of simple way. But conscience seems to be one way he feels a little bit comfortable saying this is God. Is like we sense God in our conscience.
Well, if you pull up Tony's comment, you'll actually see, because he's bang on with what he says.
It's all symbols.
No, sorry, the one above that. Keep going. It's just up above Colton's last comment too.
I see the motorcycle going. Oh.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, he seems to interpret everything via Jung.
Yep, which he does.
True. Yeah. This is what I'm saying. Like, yeah, in this interaction he had with these 20 atheists, and by the way, just so everyone, Ollie didn't see this, so he can't really speak directly to it. His wife probably can, but
she's a lot smarter than me, so she's
well, she apparently follows these things pretty closely too.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you watch the video, Ollie, you'd be able to, totally chime in on all of this. But still, what you said about Jordan Peterson, what everybody's saying about Peterson is he's very he equivocates. He doesn't come out and say directly. And I think he would, even in those contexts, when he's pressed, say, I can't really tell you I'm a Christian. I'm not trying to say I'm a Christian. So he's very honest about that. You're kind of unsure there.
No, I agree with what you said. My issue with Peterson is, well, there's a couple, but I think when it comes to the topic of religion, I think Peterson has been very crafty, and he does not want to give a definitive answer because he does not want to be confined to a particular belief. Because then I think he feels like he will have to defend that belief. But the problem with Peterson is he gives biblical lectures. Like, he goes through the book of Genesis and the book of... He shouldn't, because he doesn't believe half of it.
In some ways, I can respect, though, when someone doesn't go out and straight away say that they're Christian. Maybe there's a sense he's still trying to work it out. I know he's spoken about the Bible as narrative a lot, as if it's like just some, it was whatever the term is he uses. But the reason why I'm saying this is because there's times where there's celebrities say that they're Christians, and I'm like, I wish you didn't say that. Like I'm a boxing fan. Like, when Tyson Fury says that he's a Christian, and the next minute he's talking, about things that are proper out there, and you're like, oh mate, I kind of wish you didn't just.
But by the way, just to interject quickly, if Dr. Peterson happens to watch this, you're also invited to come on. We'd love to talk to you as well. Go ahead, Ollie.
We would also like answers to questions, though.
That's true. Nicholas will ask some very pointed questions and expect clear answers.
Yeah, I guess I can respect that. I mean, because I don't know enough to know if he's just being, I don't know whether he's, just not wanting to answer certain things, or whether he just doesn't know himself, whether he's thinking, I haven't arrived there, whether he even knows what it means to, what it's all about. So look, if I come just being like, I guess, generous, I can respect it.
Right.
Rather than someone that goes, yeah, I'm a Christian, and it's like, oh, right, okay, I don't know about that.
What was a little interesting about this is that I think originally this video you see on the top here was titled "One Christian versus 20 Atheists."
My wife,
but then after the video was posted and people kind of realized, and even Peterson in the video is like, well, I never really said I'm a Christian. They changed it to Jordan Peterson versus, but just to be fair, I think Peterson's been consistent. Now, I agree with you, Nicholas. He's consistently vague, but he has been consistent in the sense that I've never heard him say, I'm a Christian, but now I'm not a Christian. Like, he always just, when he's pressed on it, he will hesitate to say he's a Christian. And I'm kind of with you, Ali. I respect the honesty. I think it would actually complicate the matter if he said he was a Christian.
If you know you're not a Christian, and there's a video there that's identifying you as something that you don't even identify yourself as, like, I think you have every right to say no. Take that down and change it to my name. I'm saying this as someone that hasn't watched this video, right? But I get it, because if you yourself, you're not a Christian, why are you going to have someone say you're a Christian? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense.
On the other hand, he does teach the Bible.
Yep.
And he defends Christianity. He kind of puts himself in this position to be a defender of Christianity. So he has kind of set himself up as an authority.
and that's why he keeps getting asked about it. And that's my issue about it, because
it's good. It's good.
Sorry, I was just going to add in that's though, but where I know what you guys are saying. Yes, he doesn't come out and say it, but the problem is he's the one that has muddied the waters by giving biblical lectures and then going on podcasts and talking about it. Then when he gets asked in interviews questions about what is your personal belief, he refuses to answer. It would be very easy for him to say, look, I believe in God. I don't really know how well to articulate that just yet, but he doesn't even do that. He points everything constantly away by questions like, well, it depends what you mean by God. It depends what you mean by believe. That, to me, is someone who is being very crafty and very sneaky, because I don't think Peterson... Now, I could be wrong here, and if I am, the Lord forgive me, but I think Peterson does not want to be nailed down to a particular belief, because I think he believes that he'll then be seen as the person that, oh, well, you should defend Christianity, you should, say this, that, and the other. Well, he doesn't want that. Remove yourself from the conversation. Then there wouldn't be dramas like this.
I also think...
Go ahead, Ollie.
I was just going to say, praise the Lord that in his sovereignty, he can use all things in conformity to his will. And whatever Jordan Peterson's motive is, I do believe that the Lord has used him to get people into the word. And, for that we give God praise, innit? But God's ways are higher than man's. And look what he brought out, people wanting to crucify Christ, So
I've heard people recently express that they appreciate Jordan Peterson for some of the things that he did for them, actually, by his message. However, they've kind of moved beyond that, and I think some of them have become Christians, and now they realize Jordan Peterson. But it's interesting what you're saying there, Ollie, how God could even be using someone like Peterson. And I hear your I hear your concern there, Nicholas. I get that.
It's more coming from
I think that Peterson, in his own way of thinking, feels like as a person, he's responsible to do what he thinks is right. And I'm trying to put the best image on, this is based on what I've heard him say. So when he sees cultures going in a bad direction, he thinks it is your responsibility to speak the truth, and on that level, I do respect what he has done and what he's doing. But as a Christian, and this debate kind of brought it out. Christians are pretty like, why didn't they just get a Christian to defend against atheists?
That's helpful in that sense. It doesn't say Christian versus 20 atheists, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. Yeah,
because it's helpful because now they need to get Christian on.
Yeah. But even the people that were involved in it, for some reason, had the assumption they were debating a Christian.
Oh, okay, right.
And then when he told them, well, I never said that I'm a Christian, they kind of had to, shift a little bit in how they were approaching it.
And that's what I say, that's the problem, because by Jordan Peterson giving, like, he has a biblical lecture series where he's going through the Pentateuch. He's teaching as if he has an authority on it.
Right.
So it's not people like Jubilee's fault who would look at that and go, oh yeah, Jordan Peterson isn't a Christian. Jordan Peterson is a Christian.
Right.
Now, yes, I get that he has clarified. That's great. I respect him for that. All I'm saying is, and what a lot of other Christians I'm seeing are saying as well, if Jordan Peterson's not a Christian, he needs to stop propping himself up in certain areas where it looks like he is a Christian. Because when he's going through that biblical lecture series, he is presenting it as if he is a Christian. He's not coming outright and saying, yes, I'm a Christian, this is what I believe. But he is teaching...
I totally get that. And there's a part of me that, like, amen. Like, of course, I think authoritative teaching is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
It can be false teaching for sure. So I think, I think from his perspective, it's probably, I'm trying to, what he genuinely thinks is truth.
Yes.
And he thinks the Bible does communicate truth. And so he thinks he's just trying to present true things.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, from a Christian perspective, and you do kind of wish more Christians would, who are like really close to him, would be like, kind of challenge him on that and say, you know what? But again, there's so much of that in our culture. Because you have,
well, you see, his wife's Roman Catholic.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say that you have different people that he's kind of in circles with that use the Bible, and some of them are from just very like a wide variety of backgrounds. But so it's a kind of a common thing to try to use the Bible as an authority, which again, as Christians, we believe it is an authority. But it's like, why is it an authority? And that's where I think Peterson is very fuzzy.
Yeah. Yep. Well, the comment section has been lively here too, keeping up with us.
Yeah, and if anybody had anything they wanted to ask us specifically, but I think people are giving great feedback here. Oh, you know what I wanted to bring up, actually? Let's see if I can find it. Colton, I wanted to bring up this comment. Your thread about substitutionary atonement, this is addressed to Nicholas, earlier comes into play here. I think Peterson would reject that and in turn reject the gospel. So here's my question, and this is not adversarial at all. It's actually just, I'm curious. I'm really curious how you sort this out in your mind. C.S. Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
If you read like his Mere Christianity, his atonement stuff is really like it. He like gives some major, like, these are some major views of the. But you know where I'm going with this? Like, he's not really clear on substitutionary atonement.
No, because I believe, like, unless I'm wrong, I believe Lewis believed in Christus Victor. So he views Christ. His view of the atonement is one more of a sacrificial nature, which would be closer to Roman Catholics, because obviously Lewis was more Anglican. So
yeah.
But like, Tim,
do you
if
think
you
that
go to my X there, you can pull my thread up.
I can pull that up. Yeah. I totally agree with the substitutionary atonement myself. What
Well, I
I'm
actually-
kind of asking you, and we can look at what you said, but it's where he says at the end that Peterson rejects the gospel. What about someone like Lewis? Like, because the substitutionary atonement obviously is biblical and it's important in an understanding of the gospel, but does a person have to embrace substitutionary atonement to believe the gospel, like with someone like C.S. Lewis? That's kind of my question.
I don't think so. I think what Colton's more talking about is
right.
See, Colton is obviously on X, so he's seen what I
No,
was
and I'm not
referring
putting
to.
words in Colton's mouth. Colton,
Oh yeah,
in
no,
no
no,
way
I
am
know.
trying to imply
I'm
that.
filling the audience in on this.
Yeah.
I was replying to something very specific from a Baptist guy who is now converting to Catholicism, and he basically put up a meme that said "my face" whenever I realized, and there was a list of like distinctively.
Is this the thread you're referring to?
Yes, it's very short. We can read through it in a moment.
Sure.
So one of the things he put in there was, my face whenever I realized, name all these Protestant doctrines, and like one of them was penal substitutionary atonement. So a friend of mine tagged me in it and was like, "What would your answer be?" Because he was saying he doesn't really know. Now, I replied very briefly to the Catholic guy and then went on to write that thread, and I even said just a few quick notes because I think I may either do a video on this or write an article on it. I would hold to the fact that penal substitutionary atonement and the model of Christus Victor are both biblical, and they're actually complementary. They're not opposed to one another. So, Tim, it's really small on my end. Is there any chance you could read through it? Like, we don't have to go through the full thing, but if you could read.
Yes, I can definitely read some of it.
Yeah.
PSA, that's penal substitutionary atonement, is biblical, as is Christus Victor, and they are not at odds. PSA does not make Jesus morally guilty, but legally liable as a substitute. He bore the real penalty of real sins, not just the vague effects of original sin. It is also not a division within the Trinity either, as is often claimed, but a unified mission of love and justice. Classic Reformed teaching holds that Jesus bore not only the general curse of sin, but also the guilt and penalty of particular sins committed by his people. The curse isn't abstract. It's tied to real law breaking, to real transgressions. Christ bore that, not in his person as sinner, but in his office as substitute. You want me to read a little more?
No. So I'll give some of the background now. So on that third part of the thread, I said the curse isn't abstract. It's tied to real law breaking, to real transgressions. Christ bore that not in his person as a sinner, but in his office as a substitute. Now, someone that hears that might think, "Oh goodness, is he calling Christ a sinner?" No, that's the point. This guy seemed to think that what penal substitutionary atonement was teaching, because this is a claim that comes from Roman Catholics a lot of times, is the fact that they think that would cause an intrinsic division in the Godhead, that the Father would pour out wrath on the Son because they think somehow that's a separation. Now, the problem with that is it's not a separation. It would be a separation if the Son unwillingly faced the wrath of the Father. But Jesus willingly became a sacrifice in our behalf. He willingly stepped into that role. So while all the sin of the world was laid upon Jesus, it did not mean that he became morally guilty of that sin himself. So Jesus was not counted as a sinner where he bore our moral guilt. He bore it in the office as a substitute. So all the guilt of the world lay upon Christ in the office of a substitute, not morally. As where the Christus Victor model would look at that more and go, well, not even the Christus Victor model, let me change that. I think most Roman Catholics seem to think that penal substitutionary atonement teaches that Christ became morally guilty of sins, but that's not actually what we teach.
Oh, by the way, as we were kind of talking about this subject, And I mentioned C.S. Lewis, and I think you said he's Anglican. Someone who came to my mind was John Stott, and I really recommend people read his book, The Cross of Christ, because he actually addresses all of these aspects of the atonement, that they're all part of it. And he, I believe he does give a positive explanation of the substitutionary atonement. Yeah.
I was going to say, Tim, if you go to either part 6 or part 7, you'll see I actually quote him.
Oh, I didn't notice. Oh, nice. Nice. Part 6 or 7. Yes. If only I had read the whole thing. It was the Father, Son, and Spirit together who decided that the Son would suffer. It was not the Father acting alone, nor the Son forced to obey. It was God acting to save.
Because if any member, not that this could happen ontologically anyway, but if the Son unwillingly bore the Father's wrath, that would be a division in the Trinity. That would be a division within the Godhead. But because the Son willingly gave himself up, because he willingly laid down his life, there's no division in the Godhead there. Because the thing is, Jesus says, in the garden, Jesus says, Father, let this cup pass from me. Okay? Now I'm paraphrasing. But in the Old Testament, and even in the New Testament, especially the book of Revelation, what was the cup symbolic of? God's wrath. So, this guy in particular was basically saying that in the Christus Victor model, they don't see wrath being poured out in the Son, they just see it as the Son laying down his life sacrificially. But the problem with that is, if God's wrath is part of the justice that needs to be poured out, if you don't have penal substitutionary atonement, you have people being forgiven of their sins without wrath ever being dealt with. As whenever you hold to penal substitutionary atonement, wrath is dealt with. God bore his own wrath because Jesus is God. And that's the beauty of PSA. Now people try and butcher this doctrine all the time, but it's not only biblical, it's beautiful.
So you get that people say cosmic child abuse, isn't it? Where they think that it's
straw man.
Yes, the cross of Christ. I only just started reading it the other day. I've got it literally.
It's a classic. I've read it before, and more recently I was going through it again. Highly recommended. So is John Stott someone, Ollie, that are any of his materials used at all when you're doing evangelism?
You know I've actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I've got some little booklet here on evangelism, just in front of me somewhere. But do you know what? I love John Stott. So I love using commentaries, and recently took my family through Romans last year, and particularly was using John Stott and Douglas Moo. Douglas Moo's like recommended as like top Romans guy, and hey, maybe I'm not intelligent enough. But I just found John Stott as a wonderful way of communicating deep truths in a simple way for a commoner like me. And so I don't think he gets enough credit, particularly for his commentaries. Like I've really been blessed by Galatians, Galatians, Ephesians. I love John Stott's works. Absolutely.
There you go. You guys have produced some really great authors for sure. Great speakers and authors.
Yeah.
Do you know, I've only just realised how to read the comments. I'm thinking, I wonder if I can do it. And I just so I went quiet for a bit because I was just reading through all of the comments, catching up.
I've been trying to reply as I go. This is the great part. Whenever we have a guest on, it gives me a moment to go away and reply.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't replied, guys. I've only just seen the comments.
So Tony Biondi says, perhaps if Jordan Peterson roundtables Leviticus, then he might get substitutionary atonement. Maybe. I'm kind of mystified, because I've listened to a good part of his most recent book, We Wrestle with God, and the Bible says without the Spirit of God, we don't understand the things of God. And I do feel like Peterson is missing the point at times.
Yeah. If you treat faith as merely intellectual,
yeah,
which I think is
true. Right. Like
yeah.
Paul talks about the wisdom of this age, and like you have these really wise people. There's actually a danger there. But who knows? God could certainly use his word. The more Peterson reads it, we can definitely pray. And again, if Peterson was ever on this program, we'd love to explain what we think about these things.
Definitely.
Now, Ollie, another question, because we did get on the topic of substitutionary atonement. I assume you do talk about that quite a bit with people. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We lost Nicholas. He might be dealing with Rollo or something, because sometimes his dog needs attention. But anyway, yeah. So you mentioned Ray Comfort.
Yeah.
And Ray Comfort definitely gives that kind of a presentation.
Yeah.
Is Ray Comfort one of like? Do you feel like the method he uses is kind of just a really good way for you to be like very pointed in how you share the gospel?
I really, really appreciate Ray Comfort. I can never do his style as good as him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I appreciate it, and I think it's particularly where many often see the New Testament and the Old Testament as completely detached from one another. I think the law is very important, and I like how Ray Comfort he says it's like the X-ray. Like if a doctor said that they needed to operate on you and they didn't give you the diagnosis, you'd think, what are you doing? What I need, even though it would be good for you.
Yeah.
I've found him to be very helpful, but each conversation takes shape differently, and
that's true.
The aim is always to share the gospel. Do you know what I mean? The aim is always to share the gospel. Now, that doesn't always happen on every door. Sometimes it's really difficult. Sometimes people are in a rush or whatnot, or but we're always working towards that, and But that's what we want to do. We want to share the gospel with people. We go back on doors and doing that as well.
I think you're making a great point. When you say share the gospel, we are talking to people, and God is using people to deliver the message, and therefore we use language. And even here, all three of us, we all speak a little bit differently than each other. And that's great. Like the God has made us unique, and he puts us in unique context, and we're talking to unique people.
Absolutely.
There is a message, and this is kind of what we're hitting on, the substitutionary atonement. We can show that from scripture, but we still have to think, who am I talking to?
Absolutely.
What do they need to hear?
It's interesting.
How can we explain it? Yeah.
Do you know, like I was speaking to one of the local pastors, and he was making an interesting point that you don't see in the Bible, the apostles trying to prove the existence of God, but rather the need to be made right with God. And I find it very interesting. I remember I was speaking to, even as we were talking about how we relate to different people, I was evangelizing on the streets, and I was speaking to a guy, and he goes, well, I don't believe in God because I know science. So like, oh, cool, man. Yeah, I like science, because people often see science as opposed to God, isn't it? We're like, there's no God, there's no science. And I was like, oh, cool, bro. Like, yeah, who's your favorite scientist? And he was like, the black guy that works for NASA? I said, nah, don't, mate. There's many black guys that work for NASA, I'm sure,
I know who he means, though. Neil deGrasse Tyson, I bet, is who he's talking about.
A long time to get there, but I mean, it's his favourite, and he doesn't know his name. But anyways,
that's true.
As I was speaking to him more and more, I found that he was basically saying he believed in the universe, but he was accrediting like omnipotency and omniscience to the universe. And I was like, bro, you're just like saying the characteristics of my God, and you're crediting it to the universe. And so everyone, hey, look, people suppress the truth, innit? You know what I mean? To suppress the truth, you've got to have it in your grasp. People know that there's a God. And what I've found, I've just been reading this book called Questioning Evangelism lately by a guy called Randy Newman. I don't know who he is, but I've just been finding this book quite helpful. And Nicholas laughs. Is
No, I'm just laughing at you, but like I don't know who he is, but I like his book.
But do you know what? It's been helpful because it's thinking about asking questions. So like, we give an account for what we believe in, we give a defense. But actually people don't often give a defense for what they believe in. And people say stuff, and they say stuff that they don't really believe. It's just any excuse to try and just, cover up the hostility that they don't even realize that they're hostile to God. And when you ask these questions to people, it unpacks stuff that they say they believe that they haven't really thought about.
Yep,
true.
Too much.
It's good.
Yep.
I
know the book you're referring to. Yeah. You said it was Randy Newman.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a third edition now. I've been reading the second edition. I've found it particularly helpful. And he talks about the difference between declaring the gospel, which he says is the easiest out. So it's declaring the gospel, defending the gospel, and dialoguing the gospel. He says defending the gospel, answering objections is harder than declaring it. You can declare the gospel, defending it's harder, but then dialoguing it is harder. So it's then asking people questions to have them arrive at the gospel. That's it there. Like what Jesus did. Like when the person said, "Who's my neighbor?" If he just said, "Oh, the Samaritan," I'd be like, "Shut up, mate. What are you talking about?" Instead, he gives them the parable of the Good Samaritan, or when the rich young ruler calls him good. He doesn't just go, "No, mate. You're getting no. Why do you call me good? Only God is good."
Yep.
I find it. I've been finding it really interesting because that way the Ray Comfort spiel is really, really helpful. But you want to get to know people.
Yeah.
And it's been challenging me because I've been confronted with the fact that it's like, right, I've shared the gospel, tick box, and actually, okay, that's great, and that is a seed sown. But I'm called to love people. Do I really?
Yeah.
And although this book doesn't address that, it's certainly been what's working in my heart, particularly as I've spoke to you guys about meeting this guy who's he's a gay Wiccan. I genuinely had an interest in what he had to share. And so it's been helpful doing a work in my heart, really, slowing it down, listening, and using people's words, to relate the gospel. Like Jesus, you see John 3 and John 4. Jesus is speaking to, one moment, Nicodemus, the next minute, a woman at the well. And he's speaking to them, truths, but in a different way, meeting them where they're at. So I really recommend it. How can you get people to understand substitutionary atonement? Do you know what I mean? How can you get an old commoner like me to, how can you give it to the postman? How can you break this down for the, as John Bunyan would say, I think the ploughman.
Like you already said it, but the reason why questions are important is most people just kind of blindly, like this is what I say, like there's no real such thing as atheism anyway, because everyone has a set of beliefs. It just depends what you believe in.
Yeah.
So, for example, whenever you question the everyday person, like if they say, "Oh, like I believe in science" or whatever, ask them clarifying questions, because the likelihood is they haven't thought through what they actually believe. And 9 times out of 10, whenever they do work through with it, they realize, oh, wait, my position doesn't hold water. Now, they might not admit that to you, but internally they will be like, oh, okay, that doesn't hold up. Because, for example, when it comes, whenever it comes to science is basically the study of natural things. So whenever people say things, like I've had atheists say this to me, like, oh, science disproves God. And I'm like, well, first of all, it can't, because it's the wrong tool for the job. Science deals with the natural, God is supernatural. That would be like me, Ollie, giving you a tape measure and saying, go ahead and weigh yourself.
Yeah,
I'd
exactly.
give you the wrong tool for the job.
The time, space, and matter, isn't it?
Yeah. But also, I've give you the wrong tool for the job. So whenever someone says science disproves God, it can't, like, because of its own limitations, it can't. Science deals with natural. God is supernatural.
Yeah.
So, and
Well,
anyway, science is subservient to Christian thought and philosophy. So,
well, I saw a really helpful quote the other day. It was actually on the wall in this school that I spoke at, and it said this: "A little science estranges men from God, but much science leads them back to Him." And I can't read his name. It's for Louis Pasteur, whoever that is.
yeah.
Was that?
He is an old... Sorry, go ahead.
No. You go.
I was going to say, if it's who I'm thinking about, he is an old... no, maybe I do have the wrong person here, but it kind of sounds like... Oh, no, never mind. I'm thinking of Louis Giglio. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
I was just going to say that I thought, you know, from what I know, Einstein, not that he was a Christian, obviously, but I think he had some sort of belief that there is a God, because, I mean, and obviously he was a great scientist. Yeah. So I agree with that statement. The more science, actually, the more it leads you to God.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to have to wrap up here, guys. It's been over 2 hours, which has been awesome. And I appreciate so much your time. A couple things before we go. I just want everybody to know, Nicholas, I meant to make sure that we did this, and sorry that it's at the end here. But then again, this is when
normally when most people watch.
He has a merch store, a new one, because the original one, they weren't shipping things out dependably. So now he has one set up that you said people have bought?
Yep. All orders are currently shipped, which is great. So we know that this place works, and it's great. The reason why I'm advertising this is because I normally don't like doing it, but I think they're pretty cool products, and it's a way to support me in what I'm doing. But also, the company that I have signed up with is a group you can see here in the link. It's called Fourth Wall. They have basically said, if I can mix 6, because I'm a new customer to their service, if I can basically mix 6 orders within 60 days, they are going to give me $50 for me to choose some lucky person, some blessed person, I should say, to spend across their entire store. So not just my store, other content creators as well. So we've currently had 4 orders in and 4 orders shipped. So I only need 2 more people to order. Please don't feel obligated. I'm just letting you know that if you are interested in potentially winning essentially a $50 voucher for shopping, go ahead and check out the merch store. It's a way to support me. And yeah, hopefully you like the merch.
Got some really nice looking stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also noticing as it's scrolling through there some videos, and you're doing a series called Faith in 5, right?
Yes. New video out tomorrow on what is sin.
That's awesome. So 5 minutes essentially of Christian doctrine.
Yeah, so I'm going through... So people on X and people in real life have been submitting me questions. Like, most of them so far have been like core Christian tenets, like, is Jesus God? Is the Bible reliable? And obviously with my name, The Layman Apologist, what I'm essentially doing is I am explaining core Christian truths in 5 minutes or less. And there's a couple of people in the audience here who know me. Tom Stockman's one of them. He'll tell you that normally I would struggle putting things very succinctly, but I am getting better at reducing my videos to under 5 minutes. So the majority of them have been under 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, that's awesome that you're keeping it to that time slot, because I think that's really helpful to people.
Yeah, they're great for... I had someone message me as well and say, like, he's been using them for morning devotionals. So,
cool.
With his family, to show his kids, and it's like, hey, look, if that can be of use to you, praise the Lord.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, we're doing these really long conversations, which there's a need for that, but then we also need things that are just quick and to the point. And when it comes to Christian doctrine, great to have a resource like that, and defending the faith, things that are going to really help people. Again, we just talked about Jordan Peterson and him going, we have a lot of cultural stuff happening right now. And as Christians, we have a unique opportunity to share our faith right now. Ollie's been talking about sharing his faith. Let me also, again, just remind everybody, go check out his social media. He is on Instagram, King Jim's
and Ollie,
UK.
where can people get your music?
Yeah, you can get my music on any streaming platform, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon. Put in King Jim's. For those who might be wondering what that is, it's King Jesus is my saviour. He's the King. All glory to him.
Amen.
If you're more interested about what I'm doing on the ground ministry-wise, I do send out ministry updates. You can message me on Instagram, drop your email. I can add you to that if you're interested and receive those updates on what the Lord's doing in that ministry as well.
Yeah. I receive them and they're very good. So,
well, guys, I want to thank you again, and I want to let you know that I've definitely determined in spending all this time with you that, I definitely have a goal to get over to the UK. I want to visit London and see Ollie in person. And I want to go golfing with Nicholas. So
come to London, all you're getting out of me is crazy golf. Me and my wife, we love crazy golf. We're so competitive.
I'll do that.
It beats me.
I'll do that. What's crazy golf?
It's like mini golf courses that have like weird things like shooting through a windmill.
Oh yeah. I'll do that. I'll go to you first so I can practice on crazy golf.
Yeah. But if you go to Nicholas first, then you might be really, really good. You see, and then you'll be prepared to just smash us at crazy.
Oh, that's true. Maybe. Yeah,
but,
I'm not sure.
I've seen some pros struggle on mini golf courses.
Really?
Yeah.
There we go. Hey, it's like when you but there you go.
I can tell Nicholas, this green that we're on is simple compared to what I had to do with Ollie. I had to go through a windmill and over a ramp.
Person yet, bro? We haven't even. We it's yet to happen, man. It's yet to happen. But we can do some crazy golf and proper golf with me.
That's awesome. Well, I'll be honest. The UK is really a place I've wanted to visit for a while. So I really hope I can get over there.
Yeah.
And maybe we can do a video too while I'm over there. That'd be pretty cool.
Amazing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to let the audience go. I really appreciate you all being there and interacting with us in the chat.
Yep.
It really means a lot. And as usual, we've kept our numbers up through this.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was just going to say, before you do dismiss the audience and let them go, remind them that the schedule for next week's completely different.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder. Nicholas is on holiday next week.
Finally.
I will be on vacation the week after. So we do have some changes in schedule. What we're planning is next week to do this on Friday.
Yes.
So don't worry, don't be alarmed if you don't see us Wednesday. That's actually planned. We'll plan to be here Friday. So thank you, everybody. Hopefully you can join us Friday. That would be awesome to see our regulars there, and maybe we'll even have people on Friday we don't normally see in the audience, because sometimes it's easier for people to join on a Friday. But we'll come up with some topics that are current and relevant. And we even have some guests we're starting to line up too for the futures, some other guests. But thank you, everybody. We will see you next week on Friday.
God bless, guys and ladies.